Okay, Kamikaze. Now, as a lot of you, if I teach you, will know, Kamikaze is my favourite poem in the anthology in terms of the way that it can compare brilliantly across so many poems. Now, the reason it compares across so many poems is that it takes a lot of themes that we've already talked about. So it's something we can brilliantly compare to many of the things that have come before. Okay, so like the war poems, it is a poem about conflict. And this poem really does take in the before and the after that I was talking about with conflict. When we think about conflict, we think what came before, what comes after. Okay, so in the Charge of the Light Brigade, we have the idea of the battle and the idea of the before the battle, of the men not being able to question, the men just doing, the men following, having no power, just having to do what they're told. Then we have the after effect of that, which is death and glory. In exposure, we have the consequences of the exposure to those conditions and the idea that men are dying futile deaths, but nothing happens, and that because of war, the men just suffer this haunting and perpetual stasis, but nothing is done and nothing is created. There is no peace, no justice, just us suffering. And in this poem, we see the before and after of one man's journey into war. And in this poem, we see how war and ideas towards war can cause mental conflict. There can be mental conflict within the people who go to war. And we also see how nature and the bonds between people are powerful. So this poem is both a poem about conflict with war and conflict with national identity, but also conflict at home and with people. I'm going to talk really in this poem about conflict itself. Okay? So, kamikaze is a Japanese word. Okay? So this poem is written not from a Japanese perspective. It's very important to know this poem is written from a person who is not Japanese and has never lived in Japan. Okay? They're writing from a perspective of history. So it's important to know that some of the images are perhaps stereotypical and Eurocentric. Okay? And the word kamikaze is a Japanese word. Okay? And a kamikaze pilot was a person who would fly a ship, and the purpose of that ship would be to dive into a much, much bigger ship. Okay, so the kamikaze pilot would dive into a very big ship. So that would be one ship lost, one person's life lost, but hundreds of, maybe thousands of people dead, and one big ship out of the way. So, for example, in 1942, the Japanese army attacked Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was a really big naval base in off the coast of one of the Hawaiian islands for America. And Pearl Harbor was a clever attack from idea because a few pilots took out big ships from the American Navy. The problem with being a kamikaze pilot is there is no chance of survival. Zero. It is a suicide mission. A one-way journey. Okay? And at this point in history, Japan was a part of an empire. Okay? The Japanese Empire stretched many countries. Okay? And because of this kind of empire mindset, there was this idea that culturally, to fight as a kamikaze, to be a Japanese fighter pilot, was to fight for your country, to be a part of your country, and to bring glory to the empire. So to be a kamikaze pilot was an honour, and the purpose was to bring glory to your country, your empire. And it's this idea of glory that was very important to the Japanese people. So in Japanese culture, to go to battle, if you don't die with honour, it is very shameful. So to die without honour is very, very shameful. And to not bring glory to your country is very shameful. And so this poem really talks about I suppose the problem with patriotism and jingoism. Now, the kamikaze pilot in this poem at the beginning is very jingoistic, has really strong patriotic connections to his country, but begins to question them and finds himself both in physical conflict on his way to war, it's on a journey to war, but also mental conflict on the inside. And this poem really makes you question what is more important, glory and like identity in terms of like power and honor, or family and love. And that's what we'll be looking at today.